Contact centres. We've run some material within our library, I'm sure you can find it, on contact centres. And we're not the biggest fans. I find them quite unfair for parents often. I find the circumstances of them quite unfair and unsavoury. And I think they are a far from perfect solution to what I appreciate is a difficult question. Run the intro. The family court has an option to place children who they believe are at risk, who they believe there are safeguarding issues around, to place them in a contact centre, either in a supervised or an unsupervised environment, in order that the absent parent can have some time with them. The theory behind contact centres is that they are a short-term fix. The parents go in there for a couple of months, seeing their children over the course of weekends normally. And then in the fullness of time, the family court comes up with a more suitable long-term solution. The reality is, and this is probably a conversation for another day, but the reality is contact centres can often have children and parents trapped in them for literally years. And that is inappropriate. That isn't right for the health of the child. That isn't right for the health of the relationship. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today I'm going to talk about the policing of contact centres. Who actually supervises what is going on inside a contact centre, and indeed how a contact centre is being run. Most contact centres in the UK are members of the NACCC, the National Association for Child Contact Centres, which is a charitable organisation whereby they encourage people who want to run a child contact centre to become a member. And I have to say, naively, when I first became aware, many years ago, when I first became aware of the NACCC, I presumed that it was some sort of organisation that actually policed contact centres, that audited them, that checked on what they were doing in order to ensure that they were delivering the most professional and the safest possible product for children. And I also presumed that they worked closely with the courts in order to ensure that obviously they were providing the best possible service and the best possible safeguarding. That's not the case. That's not the case. NACCC don't have a remit to police contact centres, nor do they want one. And I'll tell you why I know this. Very recently, myself and one of my clients were reading the reports that contact centres produce, telling them about how a session has gone. And we happened to have a couple of months worth of reports that we were reading, one after another, for various reasons, because we were just sort of tracking to try and get a feel for the progress of the contact. It became apparent to us over the course of time, over the course of the minutes that we were reading, that actually the contact reports basically was exactly the same report week after week after week, and almost word perfect, exactly the same report, same phrasing in exactly the same place. So if the contact reports were to be believed, then the particular child in that instance every week started her contact session by doing exactly the same things in terms of engaging with toys. She said exactly the same things. She reacted in exactly the same way. So that clearly was not the case. So what was happening was, as became self-evident as we explored more contact reports, was in fact the contact centre was simply copying and pasting contact reports week in and week out in order to produce exactly the same report, and they just felt that that was a suitable thing to do. So what you were getting was not a window onto your contact session. What you were getting was just a regurgitated piece of fictitious narrative. We became aware of this. We flagged it with the contact centre in the first instance. They had no interest whatsoever. We flagged it with NACCC just to say, look, obviously one of your members is obviously doing this and it's entirely inappropriate, and potentially, behind a completely fictitious contact report, we have no idea what's going on. There could be child abuse for all we know. The NACCC weren't the least bit interested. They just dismissed us, they pushed us to one side, they weren't the least bit interested in getting involved in any sort of investigation. They barely replied to the email. We then provided the same concern to Cafcass. Cafcass also have opted not to get involved, given that they have no direct remit over contact centres. So they weren't interested either. And so I have a situation where I have a child with one of my clients who has been in a contact centre for a number of months last summer, and we have no idea what happened during those contact sessions, because the reports are simply a regurgitation of a report that was produced at the start of her sessions in there, and then has just been copy and pasted week in and week out. And that is quite a frightening prospect. And it's just another window onto the issues that are fast racking up in the family court system, because the purpose of the court system is to safeguard children. The court is using the contact centre mechanism in order to put parents somewhere, but the court has no control over the contact centre mechanism. It's an independent operation. NACCC, as I presumed, the group who had a remit to safeguard contact centres, do not. Contact centres are entirely independent. They are commercial entities in their own right. That's concerning, and that's something that maybe we should be thinking about. Thanks very much for watching. If you want to learn more about Daniel Picave Counselling, watch that video. If you want to learn more about McKenzie Picave Family Law, watch that video. And remember to subscribe, because 68% of you haven't. See you next time.